As MacKenzie Gore continues his 2024 summer struggles, should the Nationals start considering moving him down to AAA? Well, it's certainly on the table.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can check us out over on YouTube. Just search Locked On Nationals there, and that is where you'll find your daily content for your Washington Nationals. And of course, again, just search us wherever you get your podcasts. Again, that is Locked On Nationals, wherever you get your podcasts. A little bit later on in today's show, you've got the Beltway Series starting tonight. 2 games up at Camden Yards, one of the best ballparks in all of baseball. We'll preview that and also kind of get into, is the rivalry still alive? Is there a rivalry anymore? Because it seems to me that at this point in time, the Orioles and the Nats, they're both, one is really good and then one is really bad. There's really no in between. So is the rivalry still alive? We'll discuss that and tackle that a little bit later on in today's show. But of course, if you haven't been aware of this yet, Seaver King, the Nationals' first-round pick, the 10th overall pick in this year's draft, and Caleb Lomavita, the Nationals' Comp 1A pick they got for Hunter Harvey at this year's deadline. They both make their debut tonight, and I've got a little bit of a steaming hot take for you. I'll give you that one in the second segment of today's show. As the Nationals, they have been in a little bit of a rut. They did actually do pretty well against the LA Angels. Anthony Rendon came back to town, and they did decent. But here's the thing. We got to talk about MacKenzie Gore, because this has kind of been something on my mind. I even mentioned it a few days ago that I would not be surprised and I would not really be upset if the Nationals did decide to option MacKenzie Gore. And this has been something that I've been really kind of going back and forth with in my head. But should the Nationals option him at this point, or is there a better option? We'll discuss that. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs have winded down. The sports stop sportsing like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. So here's where we kind of go off the rails a little bit. Should the Nationals consider optioning MacKenzie Gore at this point? There's 2 different roads where the Nationals can go down at this point. And here are the 2 options. You option him down to AAA, and the other road is you have a 6-man rotation going to stretch out all of your starters and not just MacKenzie Gore. Because let's face the truth here. Let's look ourselves in the mirror. And if you're the Nationals, you got to look yourselves in the mirror at this point. MacKenzie Gore has really struggled so far this summer. There is no doubt about that. Davey Martinez knows that. Mike Rizzo knows that. And MacKenzie Gore also knows that he has been struggling. But if you really look at the numbers, since really the beginning of June, they have been really bad. Over his last 13 starts, he has 61 1/3 innings pitched, 78 hits in that time frame as well. He has a 6 ERA, and batters are batting over 300 against him with a 4.59 slug and nearly a 40% on-base percentage. This is not a good time for MacKenzie Gore, and that's stating the obvious. The slash line against him so far is nearly an all-star caliber kind of hitter. It's certainly not crazy to say that MacKenzie Gore is broken right now. Now, the Nationals, they have to think for themselves here. What is best for your potential future ace? Which I still believe MacKenzie Gore can be. You have to tackle a lot of these different issues here. But let's start off with the Nationals front. What hurts if the Nationals do decide to option him? How will that hurt MacKenzie Gore? How will it hurt this rotation sitting here today? Well, ultimately, the Nationals are still building for the future. So that has to be at the forefront of this. You're not in a wild card race. In fact, the Nationals, they probably won't say this, but it's not bad losing at this point. You have to consider your future right now. In sitting here today, August 13th, you can't not tell me that MacKenzie Gore is broken. He is. At this point in time, he is not pitching well whatsoever. 35 walks over his last 13 starts to 58 strikeouts. MacKenzie Gore at one point was striking out nearly 11 batters per 9 innings. That has gone away. He is not generating swings and misses what he once was. His season ERA has inflated up into the 4.5s. There's something wrong here. And even in his last start where he had no earned runs over the weekend, he wasn't good. He had a career high in walks. I think the Nationals, if they were really mature about this, they should option MacKenzie Gore. That is the best road to go down. If I was Davey Martinez, I'd probably sit him down in my office and say, listen, this is not something where we want to do, but we also need you to get right. I would much rather MacKenzie Gore try to find ways to get right down at AAA than having him do it up in the major leagues at this point. And I think this is kind of a case-by-case basis, by the way. One thing about MacKenzie Gore that I love about him, the guy is a competitor. He goes in, he kind of has that Max Scherzer bulldog mentality a little bit, where he's like a kind of a goofy, fun-loving guy 4 days out of the week, but the day that he starts, he kind of turns into that bulldog guy who wants to go out there and win. He's a competitor. He's a pro baseball player. This is someone who will be at the front of your rotation for hopefully the next 5+ seasons. But also with MacKenzie Gore comes this. Someone who can get a little bit too high. His emotions run high just a little bit too much, in my opinion. Having him kind of get rocked, face the media, I don't think that does too well at this point. And this is someone who is a fan, but also a credentialed media member. I don't go in there after locker rooms after every game, but I can tell you this, you see it yourself. You see the frustration with him. Now, are these things that he could probably get done at the major league level? I'm sure of it. I'm sure that he can figure this out. And if the Nationals do decide to not option him at this point, that's probably a fair decision to make. But I think the mature decision for the Nationals and the best interest of MacKenzie Gore would be to option him. Now, with the other road that we talked about, getting a 6-man rotation in, that also wouldn't be bad as well. And by the way, I do kind of expect there to be a 6-man rotation relatively soon, because you have a lot of young guys sitting here today. You've got Trevor Williams rehabbing from injury. At some point, he will be back and healthy. Is he going to be back sometime this season? I don't know at this point. But you have someone named Brad Lord down in AAA. He seems pretty ready to make his major league debut. He's climbed from high A Wilmington all the way up to AAA Rochester. Would it be a lot to shove him up into the majors at this point? Maybe. But also with Brad Lord, he's kind of one of those lottery ticket guys where the whole farm system isn't relying on him to shape up and to be a starting pitcher in the major leagues. That would be a great thing to happen for this team. But the ceiling for him maybe is a 5th starter in your rotation. And that's a maybe. He's had a great season. He continues to build on it in AAA Rochester. But if you wanted to space out Jake Irvin, who's still just a few years removed from Tommy John surgery, if you want to space out Mitchell Parker, who's reaching his career high in innings pitched, same with DJ Hers, this would not be a bad situation to have, to move to a 6-man rotation. And even when Trevor Williams is healthy, maybe in a few weeks here, maybe that's when you decide to option MacKenzie Gore if he has not figured out his struggles at this point. because I think we have to hit home on this point here. As far as the rotation goes, there's nobody as important as MacKenzie Gore is. The development that he takes, the steps that he takes into being an ace for this team moving forward, that is the priority of this rotation. So if the Nationals do decide to go that route and option him, it would not make me upset whatsoever. And in fact, it would probably be in the best interest of MacKenzie Gore, the Washington Nationals, because he can't just go out there and get rocked. What is that going to do at the major league level? It's not going to do all too much. And by the way, with his stats, I don't think they care too much about his stats. But Mike Rizzo, and I believe TalkNats talked about this a little bit earlier on in the week, when you have someone out there who is walking the yard, and Mike Rizzo had the infamous sign this spring training that really ruffled some feathers of, we don't care how fast you throw ball 4. MacKenzie Gore's velo is dipping on just a little bit. And he's throwing a lot of ball 4s. Again, 35 walks in his last 13 starts. Something is not right with this guy. It would not make me upset at all to see MacKenzie Gore optioned at this point. So let me know what you think. You can tweet at me at RyanClary11, or you can drop a comment in the YouTube page. I'll try to get to those and respond to those as well. But that is where I stand today. And I'm interested to see what you may think about this situation, because I do think it's developing. And maybe, just maybe, the Nationals do decide to option the kid down to AAA Rochester. But let me know what you think in the comment section. Tweet at me at RyanClary11. Let's talk about some better things, though. The Nationals' first-round pick in Caleb Lomavita out of the University of California, pick 39 in this year's draft class, a first-round kind of talent. He makes his debut tonight in Fredericksburg alongside top 10 pick Seaver King. I've got a little bit of a hot take for this, and I'll discuss that after we tell you guys about some of our very good friends over at Ibotta. And guys, we've talked about Ibotta before. You know the drill already. There are sandals, sunscreen, snacks are for the kids. But what do these all have in common? You're probably buying a ton again this summer, and the summer is not done yet. But don't stress about the cost. Use Ibotta and get cash back on all of your purchases when you stock up on all of your summer essentials with Ibotta. And you might be thinking, well, what is Ibotta? Ibotta is a free app that lets you earn cash back every time you shop. Earn on hundreds of items from groceries to beauty supplies, even toys, so you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta user earns $256 per year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip, the flight that you've been eyeing, or the fancy dinner that you've been craving. You can save on over 2,400 brands and shop at over 1,000 retailers, including your favorite grocery stores, Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and much more. It's time you join the over 50 million users who use Ibotta to earn cash back every time they shop. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners just $5 for trying Ibotta by using the code LOCKEDONMLB when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back and use code LOCKEDONMLB. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store and use code LOCKEDONMLB. Now, let me tell you guys about some of our very good friends that I use all the time, by the way. Our friends over at FanDuel. And of course, you know that I love sports. I'm going to assume that you love sports. Make them a little bit more fun with our friends at FanDuel, because as the playoffs have winded down, we have fewer games and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. In the Paris Olympics, they are over with. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel's hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. Head over to FanDuel. Maybe tonight you think Luis Garcia hits a home run at Camden Yards. That's a very easy bet to make because he has been red hot lately. Maybe CJ Abrams gets back on track against the Orioles. Maybe he goes yard. We'll see about that. All you have to do is visit FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer, because FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. And Seaver King and Caleb Lomavita make their minor league debut tonight at Single A of Fredericksburg. Here is what you should expect. Well, first and foremost, Seaver King. Let's talk about him. The 10th overall pick out of Wake Forest in this year's draft class. He's going to be a work in progress. If you remember this time last year when Dylan Cruz and Yohandy Morales first got to Single A, we were expecting big things from them. Both of them top 20 prospects. Dylan Cruz, in my opinion, or not even an opinion, it was a fact. He was the second best prospect in last year's draft, right behind Paul Skeens, his teammate there at LSU, both winning the national championship. We knew that they were going to fly through the system. Yohandy Morales, we didn't really think would fly through the system as fast as he did. But here's the thing. That's what the Nationals did. I'm not expecting that with Seaver King this year. I think Seaver King will stay in Fredericksburg through the duration of the season. I'm not expecting a high A Wilmington call-up. Here's what you should expect. This is going to be a work in progress for Seaver King. It just will be. Now, on the other side of the coin with Caleb Lomavita, I think this is someone who actually could kind of make his way up to high A Wilmington a little bit quicker than what you may think. But here's the thing. It's going to have to be pretty quick if the Nationals do decide to kind of work his way up through the system. The reason why I think Lomavita is a little bit more liable to being that guy who could be working his way up into the majors or into the minors a little bit quicker is because this guy has 3 years of experience in Division I baseball. He is developed. He is at the peak of his powers right now. He is coming off a season in which he had a 981 OPS. He just hit 15 home runs, 52 RBIs. Hell, he even had 12 stolen bases this last year. Lomavita is a better prospect today than what Seaver King is, in my opinion. Now, the prospect rankings won't indicate that, but I think he is a more polished version of himself than what Seaver King is of himself at this point. The reason why the Nationals took Seaver King at number 10 is not because of who he is right now. It's because of what they think he will be down the road. With the other hand of it, Lomavita is the pretty developed guy at this point. He is an established college player who killed the baseball in 3 years at the Pac-12 level for California. This is someone who has pretty raw power also, decent behind the dish, but ultimately not a crazy defensive catcher who will be throwing guys out left and right. But he is a more polished version of himself than what Seaver King is. Seaver King is going to be, kind of think of it as a high school prospect coming out. I don't think he'll be on the timeline of that. Like, I don't think we see Seaver King until 2028 in the majors. I'm not saying that. But I think you will see Lomavita work his way through the minors a lot quicker than Seaver King. And that's not a knock on him, by the way. Because, again, the main point is this. Seaver King, the Nationals did not draft him for what he is right now. They're drafting for what he could be down the road. That is the whole thing with the Nationals. That is the approach that they took in this year's draft. Whoever they had in mind at taking at number 10, whether it have been a high school prepster from Mississippi or the shortstop from Harvard Westlake High School, I don't know at this point. But Seaver King is a project. So at this point, I would not be surprised to see Lomavita in high A Wilmington at some point this season. But here's the thing. He's going to have to really kill the baseball and play solid defensively behind the plate. I don't know how many innings he will get behind home plate. I would expect him to probably DH a little bit more than what we're expecting at this point because he just got done with the full college season. They probably don't really want this guy squatting all season long. He'll get, obviously, a lot of opportunities. He had basically 2 months of rest here over the last summer here, but I expect Lomavita to work his way through a lot quicker than Seaver King will. And that's not a knock on King, by the way. I want to really hit that point here. That is not a knock on Seaver King. That is just the expectation that I have put on them at this point. Seaver King is a project. I realize that. We should probably realize that as a whole. Lomavita is not really a project. He is a first-round talent who slipped to the Nationals at number 39. And I think if the Nats do decide to kind of work their way a little bit quicker with Lomavita, that's not a crazy thing to think at this point. Don't be surprised if Lomavita gets off to a really hot start and Seaver King does not. Again, this is not a knock on Seaver King. His ceiling is much higher than Caleb Lomavita, in my opinion. Someone who could have a very surprising raw power in his back toolbox there. Lomavita already kind of has that. But Seaver King, again, the ceiling, much higher than Lomavita. But do not be thrown off whatsoever if he makes his high A Wilmington debut a little bit sooner than what Seaver King does. We'll see what the Nationals do decide to do, but I'll be really interested to see what they do tonight in their debut again for the Fredericksburg Nationals. That will be a very interesting series to watch. So thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And now, let me tell you guys about the Orioles series. The Nationals head up to Camden Yards. In my opinion, one of the best ballparks in all of baseball, and I'm sure you've probably been up there if you're in the D.C. area. It is a hell of a ballpark. I love Camden Yards. Unfortunately, I will not be able to make it up to that series, but we'll discuss it after we tell you guys about our friends over at SupplyHouse. And guys, get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades, SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is a reliable way to order plumbing, h-vac, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at SupplyHouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com. Now let's preview the Orioles-Nats series, the Beltway Series that we all look forward to in town. And is it still a rivalry? Let's get into that a little bit later on. But first, the pitching matchups for this series. You've got Jake Irvin against left-handed pitcher Trevor Rogers, one of the Orioles' main trade deadline acquisitions. And that was a really intriguing kind of deadline move, by the way. They gave up one of their top prospects, a couple of them, in fact, to the Miami Marlins for Trevor Rogers. Now, Mike Elias, in my opinion, is one of, if not the best GM in all of baseball at this point. He has been the hot hand. He has turned that Orioles team around completely. They still have a loaded farm system. This will be a very interesting pitching matchup tonight, as the Nationals have Jake Irvin on the bump as well. As far as the Orioles go, though, this matchup should scare anybody. We have to go against Gunnar Henderson, Jackson Holliday. You've got a ton of different guys. Anthony Santander has been absolutely on fire the entire season, which, by the way, watch his name in the free agent market. I would not be surprised if the Nationals go after him a little bit later on. But still, the Nats, you've got a tough one tonight. And then, of course, tomorrow, you have DJ Hurst, who has been your better pitcher so far over the last few weeks here against Dean Kramer, who has kind of taken a little bit of a step back, in my opinion, this year. I thought he was going to be one of their best pitchers, which he has been good. But he hasn't been great, in my opinion. He has the ability to be great, but he just hasn't been that at this point. And maybe that's my Baltimore rivalry coming out of me, because I don't hate the Orioles, but let's kind of get into it. Is the rivalry alive? Is there even a rivalry anymore? I think Baltimore hates DC a lot more than what DC hates Baltimore for. And this kind of stems back from the days where when the Baltimore Orioles were the team of DC, and a lot of people who may be Nationals fans now grew up as Orioles fans. That changed. That flip-flopped. DC now is its own team. They've won a World Series, and they are the bigger market. We are the bigger market than what Baltimore is. So they've always kind of been treated like a little bit of a younger stepbrother, you could say. But at the end of the day, Baltimore hates DC a lot more than what DC hates Baltimore for. I've always kind of liked the Orioles. Do I get annoyed of them? A little bit. Do I get annoyed at their fans? Probably a little bit more. But at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. I don't really see this as a rivalry anymore. Now, if there was some beef between the teams, which, the Masson debacle over the last few years, you could certainly say there has been beef, but with their new owner, I do expect that to change and lighten up maybe just a little bit. But with the Nationals right now, I don't see this as a rivalry. I just don't. Maybe you feel differently. You can let me know. You can tweet at me at RyanClary11, or you can drop a comment in the YouTube section. Is the Nats O's Beltway Series little rivalry still a rivalry? We'll discuss that. And of course, let me know in the comment. Just search Locked On Nationals, drop a comment on YouTube, or search me up over on Twitter. Just tweet at me, DM me at RyanClary11. That is where you'll find me. And of course, enjoy the Beltway Series. Enjoy the rivalry, maybe? Whatever you want to say. It's up to you. I'll catch you on the flip side. Have a good one.